Thank you for joining me on this Saturday. I'm meteorologist Brian Shields. Life-threatening mudslides are a high potential with this system. This is Julia, about to become a hurricane. Winds are at about 65, 70. It should become a hurricane as soon as later today, and I'm very concerned with our high terrain in spots as we get toward parts of Honduras, Nicaragua, and working inland toward El Salvador, Guatemala, for that chance of life-threatening flash flooding as this works inland. Now, here it is, again, just about to become a hurricane. That'll start to work in to Nicaragua later tonight. Heavier rain just off the coast of Panama, and I'll keep an eye on Costa Rica, and we're going to break that down in depth. But as we get back toward the rest of the Caribbean, from Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana, we swing back toward Barbados, St. Lucia, Anguilla, Antigua, and Barbuda, back through the Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, my friends in Haiti, the Dominican Republic, all in pretty good shape. Scattered showers and storms, not much more than that. And look at here, Jamaica, all of this as expected just to the south of Jamaica. May get a few rain bands working in, and of course watching the Cayman Islands as well. So here's the very latest. Again, winds right now at about 65 miles per hour with higher gusts moving to the west at 21 miles per hour. It took that westerly track, so what we've been talking about on the last few videos, all right on track for you. That's why I do these videos, just for safety. We don't have sponsors or anything like that, just for safety to get the word out. Again, the hurricane conditions start to work in, especially after midnight. We're going to get some tropical storm conditions working into Nicaragua later today. Tropical storm warnings out for the northeast coast of Honduras. Then we have the hurricane warnings out as we work our way into the central coastline of Nicaragua. Most of this will be just to the north of Costa Rica, but we will get some rain as well as we work into Costa Rica. There's that wind field, that orangey shading you're seeing. Those are the tropical storm force winds. They'll be expanding and again moving due west as we take you out in time. And then look over here as we get into the south coast. We do have some tropical storm warnings and watches up. As this moves into the Pacific side, it may redevelop some and kind of push its way back near Guatemala and back toward Mexico. But either way, a huge rain event, life-threatening flooding out of this. And here's just some wind probabilities. You see this purple shading, a 100% chance of at least tropical storm conditions rolling into Nicaragua, but it's really going to be hurricane conditions, and we'll see those high seas. Now we're going to get the coastal impacts, but also the inland impacts. Now the earliest chance of getting some of those tropical storm force winds will be tonight. This is Saturday, 8 o'clock, working into the coast, and then everything progresses and works off toward the west. As we get into tonight, conditions go downhill tonight, and especially tomorrow morning. Models in good agreement bringing this right into the central coastline of Nicaragua, and then not really reemerging into the Bay of Campeche, more so into the Pacific side, where it may strengthen a little bit, kind of swing back toward, say, Guatemala and eventually Mexico. So what this means is a prolonged rain event, and that is a huge concern for flash flooding and mudslides. So if you're in one of those areas, one of those ravines, one of those spots that takes on a lot of water, you get those rivers rising in big events, please seek higher ground, especially by the time we get into tonight in Nicaragua and then marching off toward the west. So the point of impact as it hits the coast, we're looking at winds of 80 miles per hour or 90 knots. Gusts will be higher, some of the gusts to 100 miles per hour. That's the point of impact. Of course, we're going to deal with that surge in the coastal flooding. But again, these systems have multiple kind of things happening. You get that point of impact, but then you also dealing with the inland issues, and those are the flash flooding, the life-threatening flash flooding, 5 to 12 inches of rain. It could be more in spots because this system will kind of hang around a little bit as it gets into the Pacific side. Mudslides, flash flooding, parts of Honduras, not as much in Belize. We'll get some rain bands, but watching inland in Honduras, inland Nicaragua, El Salvador, Guatemala, and then Guatemala and even parts of Mexico as this gets back into the Pacific. So a huge rain event here. Costa Rica will get some rain, but again, most of the heavier weather will be staying to the north. So here's the system today, and taking you out in time. Here's Cuba, Cayman Islands, Jamaica. We get back through Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, Belize, and you see it here strengthening into a hurricane later today, and then it will make landfall tomorrow morning. So we get those hurricane conditions, some sprawly rain even trying to work into parts of Belize and far south as Costa Rica, but the core of it moving right into Nicaragua, heavier rain and coastal flooding for northeastern sections of Honduras as this moves on shore. And then it moves inland, and yes, it's going to weaken. So it'll go from, well, it's a tropical storm now. It'll become a hurricane back down to a tropical storm. But with that, all this rain, this is by the time we get into tomorrow night, spreads through El Salvador, Guatemala, and look how this kind of emerges along the Pacific coast, and that will keep the rain in play toward Guatemala, even back through El Salvador and parts of Honduras, and then by Mexico, Monday into Tuesday. So this is going to be a long rain event, and that's why it is a huge concern for that flooding, that life-threatening flash flooding with this system. So we're dealing with Julia now. Carl's the next name on the list, but some good news. Don't have any other areas of concern out there as of now. I was just talking to my good friend Tom Terry. He's a meteorologist who I work with, one of my colleagues, and we were talking about you do get these late season systems that do pop up, especially along fronts. So October can be pretty active. The month of October, a little secondary peak. November, though, itself is usually very quiet. So we're past the peak of the season, which is September 10th. But again, October can be active, and then things usually settle down in November. So lots to track. I'm thinking of you. Please be safe as Julia moves on shore. Again, seek higher ground if you need to. If you get one of those rivers that swells, please seek higher ground. I'm thinking of you. Thank you for leaving the comments. Please be safe out there, and I hope you have a good Saturday.